League teams, this rivalry is new, but the baseball tradition is deep. In Montreal, the Royals predated the Expos, bringing future stars like Jackie Robinson to packed houses at Delormier Stadium. Then, in 1969, the Expos came to town, bringing Major League hopes not only to Quebec, but to an entire nation. But in 1981, remember Black Monday? Rick Monday and the Los Angeles Dodgers, a defining moment for Montreal, stopping the Expos from going to a World Series. Now, the Big O has been home to more future superstars, and this year, it's no exception. And once again, Felipe Alou has a young team in the hunt. For Cito Gaston, this year has been a struggle, but a weekend sweep of the league-leading Baltimore Orioles from some unexpected places came the power, and it's given the Jays new hope. Tonight, a rivalry for Canadian baseball supremacy begins.
Labatt Blue Jays baseball on CBC.
On this, the eve of Canada Day, 1997, warm and muggy in southern Ontario, the roof is open for the first of 3 games, first ever in league play between the Montreal Expos and the Toronto Blue Jays. Hey, quite simply, well, the sign says it all. This is the series Canadian fans have been waiting for. So many stories, not the least of which involve these two men, Cito Gaston and Felipe Alou. Well, so many great storylines. We'll deal with them if possible tonight and tomorrow. Alou versus Gaston, small payroll versus big payroll, big names and big salaries not performing in Toronto. Young players producing in Montreal, attendance down in Toronto, a disaster in Montreal. Jays under 500, Expos above 500, but right now we have a ball game to focus on, and let's have a look at the Montreal lineup that Pat Henkin will face here this evening. Mark Gredzelanek will lead it off playing shortstop. Mike Lansing will be at second base. F.P. Santangelo in that collision that took out Chris Hoyles, the Baltimore catcher, at third. David Segui, there was a lot of talk that Pat Gillick was trying to acquire Segui. Instead took Geronimo Baroa from the Oakland A's. Henry Rodriguez in left. Guerrero, the highly touted rookie in right field. He's been injured a lot. Ryan McGuire, late call-up from the Ottawa Lynx, is the DH this evening. Rondell White's in center field. And with the injury to their starting catcher, Chris Widger starts tonight. Both catchers for Baltimore and Montreal, Darren Fletcher and Chris Hoyles, injured in that recent Montreal-Baltimore series. Pat Henkin comes off the disaster against the Boston Red Sox, the game for which Cito Gaston has taken so much heat, John Cerruti.
Anytime you struggle, Brian, especially the way Pat Henkin did last Wednesday against the Red Sox, he pitched 8 innings, allowed 13 hits and 11 earned runs. You don't see a Cy Young Award winner do that ever, and you don't see Pat Henkin do it at all. Tonight, he is ready to go against these Expos.
Well, the first batter will be the shortstop, Gredzelanek, and the historic first pitch. And it is a ball at 7:37 Eastern Time on the eve of Canada Day, 1997. Count even at 1-1 strike. John Gredzelanek, a gap hitter, a notorious gap hitter, and thus not surprising to see he leads both leagues in doubles with 29.
They really have an aggressive lineup. They like to hit fastballs. They like to jump on the first fastball in the strike zone, and this man right here, Gredzelanek, no exception. For the Montreal Expos last year, Gredzelanek was really a big chance they took, putting him in the leadoff spot and playing shortstop, and he just performed remarkably.
Soft grounder handled by Gonzalez on to Delgado, and there's one down. John, let's check the defense for Toronto, and there's been a late change in right field.
Orlando Merced was scheduled to play right field. He switched with Sean Green and will be the designated hitter. So it'll be Carter, Nixon, and Green in the outfield. Sprague, Gonzalez, Garcia, and Delgado. This is the starting lineup for most of the time for manager Cito Gaston. Benito Santiago behind the plate, catching last year's Cy Young Award winner Pat Henkin.
One down, and the batter's the second baseman. As we look at Green, the batter's the Montreal second baseman Mike Lansing. That's a strike. That's out of play. Last Wednesday, Lansing had a first-inning home run, his 12th of the season. That ties him with the Montreal third base coach, Pete Mackinnon, for most home runs by an Expos second baseman in a season. Mackinnon had 12 for the 1975 Montreal Expos. Once again, the putout is 6-3, 2 down. Two down here in the top of the first inning, and it brings up the Montreal third baseman, F.P. Santangelo. And we talk about Felipe Alou getting so much out of the young players. We'll see McGuire hitting in the number 7 hole. And strike one to Santangelo. But here's a player that Alou has worked wonders with.
He is the most valuable, you might say, and most versatile player on this Expo team.
All 3 outs here in the first inning, 6-3, and I tell you what, it's a different start tonight for Pat Hinkin than it was in his last game against the Boston Red Sox. Bottom of the first inning, and let's have a look at the Toronto lineup that will face Pedro Martinez with the best earned run average in baseball. We mentioned the change. Merced originally in right field. He DHs. Green is in right. No change in the order, though. Nixon, Merced, Carter, Delgado, Sprague, Green, Santiago, Gonzalez, and Garcia, whose bat came alive this weekend in Baltimore. Otis Nixon leads it off against Pedro Martinez. And a strike one.
Well, the Blue Jays know they're going to see a lot of those good fastballs. Martinez throws about 95 miles per hour with a lot of late movement. The ball really explodes on the batter.
Martinez with that great strikeout to walk ratio, John.
Well, tonight he's making his 15th start in the season. He started 8-0 before losing a couple of ball games to the Mets. There you saw the numbers. The ERA of 1.58 leads all of the major leagues. The opponents are batting 186 against him, so he has really done a number. Look at the strikeouts to innings pitched.
There's a good example. Down swinging the leadoff hitter Nixon here in the bottom of the first inning.
What makes him so effective is this changeup. Look at Otis Nixon way out in front. Same arm action as that 95-mile-an-hour fastball. He turns it over, gets late movement down and away. No chance for the switch hitting Otis Nixon.
First pitch to the DH Orlando Merced is fouled straight back. Jammed him in foul territory is Santangelo, the third baseman. 2 up and 2 down very quickly.
Pedro Martinez likes to pitch inside, and he uses that running fastball to get it in on the hands of right-handed hitters. You saw there he threw the 4-seam fastball in on Orlando Merced, and that's what you will see from both pitchers tonight. You will see a lot of balls hit to the opposite field because it is going to be difficult for them to catch up with these high fastballs and the hard ones. Hinkin, of course, throws about 95 as well.
Two down for the Blue Jays left fielder Joe Carter.
Defensively for Felipe Alou and his Montreal Expos, Rodriguez, White, and Guerrero. Watch the kid in right field, Vladimir Guerrero, a Rookie of the Year candidate. Santangelo, Grizzlonic, Lansing.
3 up and 3 down. 2 strikeouts as expected. Pitching dominating here this evening. This is Labatt, Blue Jays baseball on CBC. First pitch, top of the second inning, is a strike to the Expos first baseman David Segui. He'll be followed by the left fielder Henry Rodriguez and the right fielder Vladimir Guerrero. John Cerruti in the disaster against the Boston Red Sox. The man that looks to be Rookie of the Year, Nomar Garciaparra, homered first batter against Pat Hinkin. Tough for a pitcher to put it behind him.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you look forward. What it does is make the 4 days in between starts awfully long. I know Pat has been looking forward to getting back out on that mound. It's awfully difficult when you have such a rough start like he did last Wednesday.
2-1 pitch, and the count is even at 2 balls and 2 strikes. But I imagine it would be much tougher, John, you were a pitcher, for a pitcher than, say, an everyday player. The player gets to come back tomorrow.
Absolutely, Brian. It's much more difficult for a starting pitcher. Of course, a reliever, a closer, they can have a rough night, but they know that they have a chance the following day to get back in there. And, of course, a regular player, they're going to play every day. They have to put it behind them immediately after the game, after a bad ball game. But it really lingers with a starting pitcher.
Close, full count.
And the way Pat Hinkin pitched 2 starts previously against the Baltimore Orioles here back on that Friday night where he shut them out was just outstanding. I made the comment up in the booth.
Carter comes in. It's a base hit. First base runner of the game. The leadoff hitter David Segui is on here in the top of the second inning.
David Segui is a switch hitter, and like most left-handed hitters, he likes the ball down. This time he just drops the head of the bat and serves it into left field. Good piece of concentration. He knows that he lifted it enough over the shortstop, kind of served it in front of Joe Carter in left field, and the Expos have the first man aboard here in the second inning.
Segui on at first base. Here's the left fielder Rodriguez.
Segui doesn't have a lot of speed at first base, but he will pick his spots to run. He had 4 stolen bases last year. And of course, this National League Montreal Expo team knows the strong arm behind the plate in Santiago. So a lot of respect there. What a year this man had last year with 36 home runs. Set a National League record with 20 home runs by May 31st. By that time, he became a household name in Montreal and throughout Quebec and Canada.
Santiago keeps the ball in front of him, John. The Expos have 83 home runs. That is 3rd highest in the National League. The Blue Jays have 63. That ranks 12th in the American League.
Felipe Alou likes to run. He likes to cause the action or start the action. He will take the game to the opposition. Look like Pat Hinkin thinking right along those lines.
John, it's interesting. Alou does like to run, but here's an interesting stat. Stolen bases this year, the Expos with only 46, the Blue Jays with 77.
Well, there's a quick answer to that. Otis Nixon at the top of the Blue Jay order.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Henry Rodriguez.
Alou's style is not to sit back and let things happen and hope for the big inning. He likes to go out. He will run people, put people in motion. He will bunt. Very much a National League manager, more of a National League style, but that's been his style since he's taken the helm with the Expos. And of course, Brian, his players have responded to that style. He is a no-nonsense type of manager. He tries to put each of his players in good situations, ones they can excel in. He uses his bench, he uses his bullpen. I think that's why he gets the most out of these players. Nice pick right there by Benito Santiago. They're paying attention to Segui. That's something that Pat Hinkin has worked on. He has a high leg kick, but the last couple of years he's used that glide step where he's abbreviated that leg lift. And he does get rid of the ball pretty quickly because of that.
Full count. Segui at first. None out.
A little surprised that Segui was not on the move with a 3-2 count. Of course, you can take yourself out of an inning with a line drive right at somebody in the infield, but and also a loose thinking with the left-handed hitter. Santiago's out to talk to Pat Hinken. I think they're thinking along those lines. One of the reasons that Pat Hinken is successful in keeping runners close and not having a lot of runners steal off him, he throws a lot of fastballs, first of all, and they're about 95 miles an hour, so usually they're easy for the catcher to unload.
And that runner on first base, Segui, has only one stolen base this year. That could explain why he wasn't running, not running now. Handled by Garcia. One on to first. Double play. A 4-6-3 double play here in the second inning. Well, we saw Garcia's bat come to life in Baltimore, and he was strong defensively, in particular late Saturday night.
This is a nice play right here. One of the reasons you put the man in motion is to stay out of the double play. It's well hit. Nice play by Garcia. Good feed to Gonzalez. Easy double play. The pitcher's best friend. Another look at it.
Well hit to center field by Guerrero. It's out of here. With two down, Vladimir Guerrero with a long home run to almost straightaway center field. Fourth home run of the year for the Montreal rookie, and the Expos score the first ever run in league play between these two teams.
And the man to do it is a 21-year-old Dominican that manager Felipe Alou just calls Mr. Baseball. He just can do it all. This is a kid that came up from Double-A last year. He played in Double-A baseball last year, and he has all the tools. And you're going to see a lot of him in years to come.
First pitch is a strike to Ryan McGuire. McGuire's a great story as we look at Guerrero, who's been injured. McGuire called up from the Ottawa Lynx when David Segui was injured. Here's that home run.
It's a high breaking ball right in the middle of the plate, and Guerrero just gets all of it to straightaway center field. Doesn't look like he possesses a lot of power, but he's got great bat speed. You can see him look to one of his teammates and say, yeah, I got all of it. I think that's a home run he's going to remember for a while.
That is the 14th home run allowed by Pat Hinken this year.
.414 feet, the estimated distance that ball traveled off the bat of Guerrero.
So that's all for the Expos here in the second inning. They get a run on the solo home run by Guerrero. Bottom of the second inning, the Blue Jays will send up the first baseman Carlos Delgado, the third baseman Ed Sprague, and the right fielder Sean Green to face Pedro Martinez. Martinez retired the side in order in the first inning, struck out Nixon, jammed Merced, who popped it up in foul territory to third baseman Santangelo, and then he struck out Joe Carter. The Expos with a 1-0 lead on the home run by Vladimir Guerrero. First interleague at bat, by the way, for Guerrero, and his first home run against the American League.
Pretty good cut right there by Delgado, but you can get an idea with that movement on that Pedro Martinez fastball how difficult it is to make contact sometimes.
Segui. One down. And Martinez has now retired 4 in a row. Brings up the Blue Jays third baseman Ed Sprague. David Segui, a veteran that Pat Gillick and the Baltimore Orioles were very much interested in. His name mentioned prominently, in particular after the injury to catcher Chris Hoyles. Baltimore, though, Friday acquiring Geronimo Berroa from the Oakland A's, and Berroa was anything but impressive in his debut yesterday against the Blue Jays. First pitch to Sprague. In center field, Rondell White. Well, there's been some talk that the Expos rank near the top in hitting and pitching, but not defense. You would not know it by this play.
He is one of the best center fielders in the National League, and he likes to play shallow, covers a tremendous amount of ground, and this you see often from Rondell White. He leaves his feet. What a great play right there. Remember last year at the end of April, he ran into a wall and made a spectacular catch in Colorado, which knocked him out of the lineup for a couple of months. He was on the disabled list.
John Green, that's high but not deep. In right field, back goes Mike Lansing, gives way to Guerrero. And Pedro Martinez has now retired 6 in a row. This is Labatt, Blue Jays baseball on CBC. Top of the order for the shortstop, Mark Grudzielanek. White with that great catch off Ed Sprague. Does he remind you of another center fielder with the same name? Tell you what, he looks a little like Devon White there.
Yes, he can go get him. Devon's one of the best ever, I believe. But this man, he's just coming into his own. Last year was really supposed to be the breakthrough season for him. He has a lot of power, more than Devon White. He's a very quick bat. Likes the fastball in the middle of the plate. But he can go get it in the outfield. And how often do we see that, Brian? Someone makes a great play defensively, they lead off the inning. We only see it when we mention it, I guess. But if you're on the bench, they always say that. You're sitting down on the bench, the players are going to talk. How often does this happen?
How often? Count is 0-2 to White.
I usually say about one every 9 times. The odds will tell you, but it's funny how it works. There's a fastball that just catches the knob of the bat, I believe. It makes it a foul ball.
Hesitated a bit in right field, but comes in to make the play, and the leadoff hitter Rondell White is retired here in the 3rd inning.
Shawn Green back in right field, and that is not an unfamiliar place for him. He played mostly right field last year for the Blue Jays. This ball on the line, the toughest one when it's in front of an outfielder, especially coming out of some light-colored shirts in the seats.
Pitch is a strike to the number 9 hitter, the catcher Chris Widger. Montreal Expos took 2 of 3 in Baltimore. Both teams lost their starting catchers, Darren Fletcher and Chris Hoyles. Talking to Mike Kozak for 17 years, the assistant trainer in Montreal. He's from Oakville, Ontario, Sheridan College, University of Waterloo. Expect to see it inside from Martinez. We see it here from Henkin.
0-2 pitch. He went away the first 2 pitches, and he sits Widger back on his backside. This is a fastball. He's just trying to run up and in. It gets away from him a little bit. And that is the easiest place for a hitter to get away, a ball right at his hands.
I was talking about the assistant trainer, Mike Kozak, and Widger, the catcher. Darren Fletcher is on the 13th day of his 15-day disabled list assignment. He's got an injured ankle. They're hopeful he'll play this weekend against Atlanta. Doug Strange, by the way, has been sent to Ottawa. He's eligible to come off the DL with a hamstring injury on Wednesday. That's the second strikeout tonight for Pat Henkin. Widger is caught looking. So with 2 down here in the 3rd inning, let's go back to the top of the order for the Montreal shortstop, Mark Grudzielanek.
Here's the hit zone for Grudzielanek. He is a typical right-handed hitter. He likes the ball up, out over the plate, preferably fastballs. And remember, that red zone is the area where the average is higher. The blue zone, the cool zone. And I say that right-handed hitters, for the most part, like to hit the ball out over the plate, extend those arms. Surprisingly, up and in is a pretty good area that he likes to turn on. And
Of course, Pat Hinken, they know the scouting reports. Now remember, these teams have never met before in a regular season game, but there is advanced scouting. These players watch each other on TV when they get the opportunity. They know their tendencies, their weaknesses, and their strengths. And both teams go over the entire ball club they're facing before the series.
At first base, Delgado makes the play unassisted. Fred Zelenik and the Expos retired here in the third. This is Labatt, Blue Jays baseball on CBS. Bottom of the third inning, the Expos have out-hit Toronto 2-0, lead 1-0 on the solo home run by the rookie Guerrero. Here in the third inning, the Blue Jays send up the bottom third of the order. It's the catcher Santiago, the shortstop Gonzalez, and the second baseman Carlos Garcia. All games tonight in Major League Baseball are interleague games. Yankees are playing Atlanta. And it's very interesting following that New York-Atlanta series. Atlanta goes to Montreal. New York comes to Toronto.
The Mets, another team in the National League East, playing very good baseball.
John with a count of 0-2. Santiago, Garcia, Merced. These are players that know Martinez well. They face
well, and you said it. Remember, an 0-2 count on Widger, Chris Widger, the Montreal Expo catcher, and Pat Hinken set him down. We'll see if Martinez does anything here with Benito Santiago.
He did not.
Martinez has a well-deserved reputation of coming up and in. He's hit a lot of batters throughout his young career in the National League. They've led to some brawls. There have been a lot of shouting matches between clubs because of that. But he is just a very aggressive, very competitive pitcher and likes to pitch on both sides of the plate.
Martinez strikes out Santiago, leading it off here in the third inning.
Well, believe me, Benito Santiago had in mind that he may come inside, and when you start looking inside, you give up that outside corner. Martinez hits his spot, and Santiago down on strikes looking.
2 down. Here's the shortstop Gonzalez. Alex Gonzalez, the game Saturday night, third game against Baltimore. Hit his 7th home run of the year, leading off the third inning.
Brian, we talk about pitchers that are effectively wild. I think Martinez, when he first came into the National League, especially back in '94 and '95, the strike-shortened years, he had a lot of hit batters, and he was effectively wild around the strike zone. Well, he's learned to control his pitches inside the strike zone, like that right there, running a fastball pitch in the outside corner, and it's made him a more complete, more effective pitcher.
John, there's an interesting article by Tim Crothers. I clipped it out about a month ago in Sports Illustrated. And speaking of inside pitches, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. Jeff Kent of the Giants says now his control is better. Hitters have to respect his right to come inside.
Well, Alex Gonzalez just found that out firsthand. This is something that the National League batters know all too well. That was right at his head. And I said earlier, it's easier for a batter to get out of the way of a fastball at their helmet and at their head. And I'll explain why.
Fred Zelenik, one hop to first base by Segui. And there are 2 down. Why is it easier to get out of the way of a fastball at the head?
Well, you can move your head much easier. If the ball comes up at your head, towards your head, your instinct should be, as a batter, not all batters do this, to turn away from the pitch, turn that left shoulder, if you're a right-handed batter, away, and of course you're going to naturally just duck that head. If you want to hit a batter as a pitcher, you usually throw it about their belt or at their back, and then you're going to get them, because that's where you cannot get out of the way. That's not to say that hitters don't get hit up around their head and up in their hands if they hold their hands high. Usually, a lot of times, a pitcher will turn in, or excuse me, a hitter will turn towards the baseball, and that's where you can get some serious injury.
Very quickly, Martinez ahead 0-2 to Garcia, who's faced Martinez when he was a member of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Garcia with his first American League home run Saturday. Softly handled by Fred Zelenik, and Martinez has now retired 9 in a row. Top of the 4th inning. It's the second baseman, Mike Lansing. He'll be followed by the third baseman, Santangelo. And the first baseman, David Segui. I mentioned earlier Mike Kozak, the assistant Montreal trainer from Oakville, Ontario. Handled nicely by Pat Hinken. As Lansing's retired, I mentioned Kozak. Lansing is one of the Montreal players that plays so hard, and he plays so hard on a regular basis, John Cerruti, that he, in many ways, is injured all the time.
You're right. Last year, he played in 159 ball games, all but 3 of the Expos games, despite a bunch of nagging injuries. He had problems with his wrist, his back, some knee ailments, and that man helped keep him on the field and in the lineup.
Garcia put out his 4-3. Santangelo retired very quickly. 2 down here in the 4th inning. But players like Lansing are so aggressive that they're playing hurt all the time.
Excuse me, Brian. We talk about the top 3 in this lineup: Grizzolanek, Lansing, and Santangelo. They epitomize the style of play. They're very scrappy. They're very aggressive. And I think Lansing, more so than anybody, really typifies that Expo pride of how Alou likes his players to play.
2 down, and the first pitch is a ball to the first baseman, David Segui. Well, since that home run in the 2nd inning by Guerrero, Pat Hinken is now retired 6 in a row. Falls behind, 2 balls and no strikes to David Segui.
Well, Segui got things going in that 2nd inning. He was erased on the double play. Fortunately for Hinken and the Blue Jays, it might have been a 2-run game, and Guerrero hit a 2-run homer with a man aboard.
John, you talked about the intensity displayed in the field by Lansing. Same thing applies to Segui. He's intense, he's hustling, and he often is playing injured.
When you look at this ball club, Alou does not allow anything less. All of his players hustle for him. He gets the most out of the veterans as well as the youngsters. He's very patient with his younger players and gives them a chance to play. He tries to use all 25 men on his roster, and that really goes a long way from a confidence standpoint with his players.
Well, after retiring 6 in a row, that is following the Guerrero home run, Pat Hinken gives up a 2-out walk to the cleanup hitter David Segui, and it brings up Henry Rodriguez.
I mentioned in Rodriguez's first at bat, the National League record he set last year, 20 home runs by the end of May. And with that, he became a big fan favorite in Montreal. He began throwing O. Henry bars on the field after his home runs.
That's the straightaway center field. Nixon is coming in. That's the inning. You're watching Labatt Blue Jays baseball live from Toronto on CBC. Bottom of the 4th inning with John Cerruti. I'm Brian Williams. Top of the order for the Blue Jays, who trail 1-0. That run, a home run by Guerrero. It'll be Nixon, Merced, and Carter to face Pedro Martinez. First pitch is a ball. Martinez is retired all 9 batters he's faced here this evening. Astute observation by my partner, Mr. Cerruti, during the commercial. He pointed out that Segui, who drew the walk, the first base runner stranded by either team here this evening.
What'd you say?
Astute.
Oh, okay. Yeah, both of these pitches are in the groove. They work fast. Pedro Martinez, we've been talking about him. He is clearly, I think, the best pitcher in the National League. Now, I don't know the National League that well, but after all, he leads the National League in ERA. He has 9 wins, leads in shutouts. Excuse me, he's second in shutouts. He's second with 135 strikeouts behind Curt Schilling of the Philadelphia Phillies. And he has been wasting no time with these Toronto batters this evening.
That's 4 strikeouts, 10 in a row retired.
When I say he's wasting no time, you can see he gets the ball back, he stays right on the mound, goes right back on the rubber and says, okay, next guy. Just that positive confidence. This is just a good running fastball. You can see Otis Nixon swinging over the top of it. The ball's about 92, 93 miles an hour, and the ball's sitting right there in the hitting area. As Otis talks to his hitting coach, Willie Upshaw. Trying to give him maybe a pointer, maybe move up a little bit, try to get that ball before it has that good movement.
Fastball inside to Merced for ball 1.
That first pitch to Merced gives you a good idea of the 2 fastballs he uses. He runs it away, and then he'll run it in on left-handed batters. That's the changeup. Merced out in front. He knows he has his good stuff. He knows he's one of the best pitchers in baseball, and he is just taking it to the hitters right now.
Popped up, Widger back to the screen inside of play to show you how effective Pedro Martinez is. I mean, just look at his last start. No decision against Cincinnati. He held the Reds to 1 run on 5 hits in 9 innings, left the game tied at 1-1 before the Reds eventually won in the 11th. His last loss against the Marlins a week ago Friday allowed 2 runs on 5 hits in a 2-1 loss. Allowed a solo homer to Charles Johnson, the catcher, and an RBI triple to Johnson in the 7th. Struck out 12 Marlins.
He has been a hard luck loser of late. And also, you talked about Darren Fletcher, the starting catcher for the Expos, going down on June 18th. He went on the disabled list after that collision at the plate. And prior to that, he had caught all of Pedro Martinez's starts. So he's working with Chris Widger in the last few starts for himself. And as you mentioned, he's been snake bitten in his last 6 with 1-3 record, but he has pitched well. That ERA below 2, 1.58.
Reaching is Merced. Santangelo can't get to it.
I mentioned the shutouts. He has 2. He's tied with a number of pitchers in the National League with 2. His teammate, Carlos Perez, has 3 shutouts, a left-hander. He had 3 shutouts over the course of 4 starts. And there you see the pitches, very low count. And look at the strikes to walks, just outstanding.
We talked about that ratio at the top of the show. It is indeed impressive. Full count to Orlando Merced. Pedro Martinez, here in the 4th inning with 1 down, has retired all 10 Toronto batters.
Remember, Merced has seen Martinez in the National League.
Make that 11 in a row, 5 strikeouts.
This is a changeup. You can see him grip the ball back in his hands a bit. Turns it over. Merced out in front looking for the fastball. After all, you're going to guess a 3-2 fastball. What a nice job of pitching by Martinez and the young Chris Widger.
Two down here in the 4th. Here's Carter. Carter struck out to end the 1st inning. In the 1st inning, Martinez struck out Nixon. Jammed Merced, who popped it up to the 3rd baseman Santangelo in foul territory, then struck out Carter.
Brian, I mentioned Chris Widger. There's the young catcher who was filled in pretty admirably for the Darren Fletcher, who went on the disabled list. And he is a man that came over in the trade last year with the Seattle Mariners for Jeff Fassero, the pitcher. And Jim Beattie, the general manager for the Montreal Expos, really likes him defensively, and his bat is going to be just a plus, and he can swing the bat pretty well as well.
Heat and strikes tonight from Martinez. Count is 1-2, 2 down. Santangelo on to first base, and David Segui. Pedro Martinez has now retired 12 in a row. Top of the 5th inning, first pitch to the right fielder Vladimir Guerrero is a strike. Guerrero with 2 down in the 2nd inning after Rodriguez had hit into that 4-3 or 4-6-3 double play. Hit a home run to center field. He's 2 for 2. So the Expos get their leadoff hitter, the rookie Guerrero, on, the right fielder here in the 5th inning. That is the 3rd Montreal hit.
This is a pretty good pitch down below the knees. Look at the bat speed and the extension by Guerrero. Pat Hinken is finding out quickly why this man right here has been highly touted. A strong candidate for the National League Rookie of the Year this year. And remember, he has a brother who plays second base for the Los Angeles Dodgers, Wilton Guerrero.
First pitch is a ball to Ryan McGuire.
Guerrero will run. Has good speed. Really a five-tool player. Hits with power, average. Runs well. Has a strong arm.
Guerrero has attempted to steal twice this year. Has not been successful, but as you say, John, he does have good speed. Henkin has given up 3 hits, a couple of singles, and the home run.
Remember, he's 21 years old. This is his rookie season, so he's learning to steal. The Expos feel that he will develop into someone who can steal 25, 30 bases sometimes. In the future, I should say. Felipe Alou loves him. He called him last year, or actually the spring, during spring training, a baseball machine.
You make a very good point as we look at Guerrero. He is learning to steal, and he is learning from the master, Alou. Alou is so good. He is so patient with these young ball players.
Right now, he's learning against a pretty good pitcher. Last year's Cy Young Award winner, Pat Hinken. He's already got a single and a home run. The difference in this ball game. Off of Cy Hinken, you might say. This is a lot of fun. Both these teams coming in here, and their first game, they're hooking up against their best. Now, Roger Clemens, of course, goes tomorrow for the Blue Jays. Pat Hinken, one of the aces of the Blue Jays, along with Roger.
You talk about the pitchers, and speaking to the ball players prior to the game, I was saying, what about the hitters? They said, forget the hitters. It's the hitters that are excited about facing Roger Clemens. The young Montreal players saying, you know what? I'm excited to look and see Clemens. The Toronto batters saying, hey, we're excited to face this man. We're not too happy about it right now, not enjoying it. There he goes. Carter in left field. Well, we've seen a nice play by White in center field. Guerrero did get back to first base. Now a nice play by Joe Carter, who's had a lot of trouble in left field this year, but makes a nice play here this evening.
And the Toronto fans responding. They love to see their veteran Joe Carter. Look at the jump he gets. He knows it's in front of him. Going to his right, sliding, diving, coming up with it, and then the strong throw back to first base as Guerrero had touched second base and rounded on his way to third. What a fine play by Joe Carter.
There's a look at Joe Carter and the base runner Guerrero. Guerrero was running as McGuire was swinging.
They're going to appeal second base, and second base umpire Durwood Merrill says safe. A lot of times, now remember, a runner, if he rounds second base and he goes back to first, he has to repeat his steps, retrace his steps, I should say. He has to touch second and then go back to first. Blue Jays making sure he did that.
Well, he got a good jump as he was running, and of course, McGuire swinging.
Well, Ryan McGuire, what a good young hitter. You can see, watch him, he touches the base. Well, actually, he never touched the base.
No, he didn't.
And that's something the Blue Jays were looking at, and because he didn't, he doesn't have to retrace and touch second base. Pretty heads-up play by a 21-year-old.
Heads-up play by our director, Jim Marshall. Running again. And again, the batter swinging in right field. Sean Green, and back to first base goes Guerrero as Rondell White is retired. 2 down.
I talked about Felipe Alou and how he likes to put runners in motion. Here's a situation where he has a young Guerrero who's learning to be a base stealer. He picks a couple pitches, once with McGuire and now with Rondell White, and puts him on the move. You can put runners in motion without giving them the straight steal. You put hit and run on, try to take the game to the opposition.
Two down, Guerrero at first. First pitch is a ball to the catcher, the number 9 hitter, Chris Woodger.
Brian, I was thinking of Joe Carter's play in the outfield. There's something about big games and the atmosphere. We saw this in Baltimore, where players rise to the occasion. Not to say that Joe hasn't been making those plays, but what a fine play that was.
It was a good play, but let's be honest, he has not been making those plays in left field this year. He's had his trouble in left field. Blue Jays players were all saying, though, John, in Baltimore, they like to be energized by the big crowd. I'm disappointed at the crowd here tonight. It's a good one, but as you look at the upper deck, a lot of empty seats. Is the fans still a little slow to come back to baseball? You think this place would be full for Montreal Canada Day holiday?
Hopefully tomorrow there'll be even more here. I'm sure there will be.
Tomorrow afternoon, by the way, we're on the air at 2 Eastern. Jeff Juden for Montreal, Roger Clemens for Toronto. That may be listed in some guides as 1 o'clock. It's 2 Eastern. That enables us to show you the entire game following the Canada Day celebrations. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, will be in attendance tomorrow on Parliament Hill. Peter Mansbridge will throw it off to baseball somewhere at around 10 to 2 Eastern tomorrow afternoon. First pitch at 2 o'clock. On to first base, and Rocky Rose says that's a ball.
Pretty good discipline by the young 25-year-old Chris Widger. Mentioned General Manager Jim Beattie for the Expos. He called Widger the best young catcher not starting on a major league team earlier this spring when they acquired him from Seattle for Jeff Facero, who's having a good year for the Mariners.
When you talk about Widger being a good young hitter, good young catcher, he is hitting .379 on the road this season.
Last year in AAA in Tacoma for the Seattle Mariners, he hit over 300 for a catcher, hit 13 home runs with 48 RBIs. That's pretty good production from behind the plate. And usually that's just a bonus. He's a fine defensive catcher.
There's Guerrero at first base. He led off the inning with a single. McGuire flied out to left, White to right. It's a full count to Widger. Back to first base will go Vladimir Guerrero.
Kind of rolls off your tongue there. Vladimir Guerrero. This guy could be around for about 20 years.
You know, the last time these two cities met in league play was in the old International League in 1960. And speaking of AAA, today Toronto's AAA team Syracuse beat Montreal's team, the Ottawa Lynx, 11-0. Guerrero running to right field. Sean Green is there, and that's all for the Montreal Expos in the 5th inning. You're watching Labatt Blue Jays baseball on CBC. Back in Toronto for the bottom of the 5th inning. I mentioned the last time these two cities, Montreal and Toronto, met in professional baseball, the Royals and the Maple Leafs in 1960. In that lineup that weekend were 3 players who'd gone to manage and win the World Series. Second baseman Sparky Anderson, right fielder Chuck Tanner for the Leafs, and the Royals first baseman Joe Altobelli. The Dodgers, of course, moved to Los Angeles in '58, moving their AAA operation to Spokane. The Royals moved to Syracuse in 1961. The old Maple Leafs were gone after '67. First pitch to Carlos Delgado, leading it off for Toronto here in the 5th inning, is a ball. The Blue Jays coming off, John, a very impressive 4-game sweep of the Baltimore Orioles. Roger Clemens was brilliant on Thursday. We watched a great 2-1 victory on Friday night. The game we did Saturday with 5 home runs, and then Escobar and Guzman both looking sharp yesterday.
What a job by Kelvin Escobar yesterday in relief of Guzman. And again, Juan Guzman coming off the disabled list with that thumb injury. He's a big shot in the arm if they can get him healthy and 100%, joining Clemens and Hinkin.
2 pitch fouled back.
Right now the Blue Jays looking for their first base runner off of Martinez. And Brian, we talked 9 days ago when the Orioles were in town, the importance of that series, or at least the upside to that series, had they been able to win 2 of 3 or even sweep them at home. And we saw them lose 3 straight to the Red Sox. And you try to look for something to build on, and nothing better than going down to Baltimore, sweeping the Orioles in front of their home crowd 4 straight.
Remember, Martinez has retired all 12 Toronto batters. absolutely dominated tonight. This is only the second full counts. Merced and Delgado.
He's done that for the most part all season in the National League. And you get a good idea of what he does so well. He has great stuff, let's face it. 95 miles an hour, a lot of movement.
Hey, John, we talked about Baltimore and the Blue Jays' impressive 4-game sweep. Cal Ripken has hit his 11th home run of the year, a grand slam. The Orioles out in front of the Phillies, 5-0. Baltimore having trouble scoring runs of late. 3-2 pitches of ball. That is the first base runner tonight for the Toronto Blue Jays. So after retiring 12 in a row, Pedro Martinez walks the leadoff hitter, Carlos Delgado, here in the 5th inning. And with Ed Sprague coming to the plate, a reminder at the conclusion of today's game, we will select the Chevrolet Malibu player of the game. A cash donation will be made in his name to the charity of his choice on behalf of Chevrolet Malibu. None out. Bottom of the 5th inning, Delgado's on at first, and the batter's the third baseman, Ed Sprague. So Toronto has yet to get a hit, but the Blue Jays have their first base runner.
Here's the hit zone for Ed Sprague, and we've seen this before. He likes the ball in the middle of the plate, and Pedro Martinez does not throw it there that often. Usually he's throwing it down the middle and running it to one side or the other. See if Ed can get a ball that he can drive up the alley and maybe give the Blue Jays some runners in scoring position.
You talked about driving a ball. This is interesting. Ed Sprague, we're on the final day of June, has not hit a home run since May 31st.
He's been cold in that department, very surprisingly. Last year with 36 home runs for the Blue Jays. He's been working hard. Remember, he was bothered by that elbow, and then he had the shoulder problem that kept him out of the lineup defensively. He was DHing. He's still the Iron Man for the Blue Jays with the consecutive game streak.
Two balls and one strike to Sprague with Delgado on at first. Good move to first base by Martinez.
Well, we got the first base runner for the Blue Jays aboard. He is a very good athlete, has a pretty good move to first. He's been working on that. Now, last year, runners ran wild against Pedro Martinez. 29 bases in 32 attempts were stolen. So he does not do a good job of keeping runners from stealing second base.
Crowd didn't like it. That's strike two.
A big part of that is his leg kick, and you would think with someone who throws that hard that runners would not take that many liberties on the base pass, but he does not show them a good move. He's not consistent going to first base. Of course, the way he's pitching, he hasn't had a lot of runners at first base. The opposition batting about 180.
with an ERA of 158.
Well, what a good view right there. You get an idea how difficult it is to catch up with that high heater. He showed Ed Sprague the breaking ball down, a changeup down. You get the eye level of the hitter looking down, and then you run this. There's a sequence of pitches. You can see the changeup and then the running fastball up out of the strike zone. The batter starts looking down in the strike zone, and of course with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball you have to gear it up. You see that ball come out of his hand and it's up in your eye level. Boy, it's tough to lay off and let alone get on top of.
That's strike one to Sean Green. Green flied out to the right fielder Guerrero to end the second inning. Delgado's on at first base. One down. It's 1-0 Montreal. Martinez ahead in the count, 0-2, and back to first base goes the Blue Jays first baseman Carlos Delgado. We're in the bottom of the 5th inning. Seven strikeouts for Pedro Martinez.
What a nice feeling it must be, I can only imagine, to possess about a 96, 97 mile-an-hour fastball. Have the hitter know it's coming and then just throw it by him. Sean Green with a very quick bat himself, just not able to catch up with it. That's got to feel good. Look at that. One walk here to lead off this inning to Delgado. Not 7 strikeouts in 4 2/3.
We talked about that strikeout to walk ratio at the top of the game. Here's a ball. Benito Santiago was called out on strikes leading off the 3rd inning. He fools Santiago. Talked about the ratio. 142 strikeouts to 29 walks. That's on the season for Martinez. The count is even 1-1. 2 down. Runner at first base. Count is 1 ball and 2 strikes. He's a pitch away from striking out the side here in the 5th inning.
He has both good fastballs. I mentioned the 4-seamer and the runner that we saw right there, the one that tails back towards a right-handed hitter. That time he hit the outside corner. But what's impressed me is he's used a curveball and a slider just to keep these guys honest, and you're really not sure what he's going to throw.
Redzolanek for Lansing for the force at second. That's all for the Blue Jays in the 5th inning. Well, great to see fans from the Rock, from Newfoundland here, from Conception Bay. John Cabot, 500 years ago, and Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth honored that occasion last week in Newfoundland. First pitch to Redzolanek is long but foul here in the 6th inning, and man, this game is sailing right along. We hope you're enjoying the game tonight, whether you're in Newfoundland, British Columbia, or points in between. The eve of Canada Day 1997, first ever league meeting between the Expos and the Blue Jays. And there is the 4th hit of the night for the Montreal Expos off Pat Hinkin. It's a leadoff single to center field by the shortstop Mark Redzolanek here in the 6th inning.
Hinkin got this pitch in a pretty good location. You can see Redzolanek pull his hands towards his body, get the head of the bat on the ball, and muscle that ball into center field. We have not seen many base runners. Of course, only one for the Blue Jays.
Now, Redzolanek, excellent base runner. 17 stolen bases in 20 attempts. The Blue Jays have been fortunate with the big payroll to get Clemens, to keep players like Hinkin. Lansing is yet another player that could leave Montreal in the near future, and that would be a shame. Redzolanek was not running. That is strike 1 to the second baseman, Mike Lansing.
Let's take a look at Mike Lansing's hit zone. He likes the ball in, preferably up about belt high. If you're an opposing pitcher, you try to keep the ball down on him. And right here, Hinkin would like to get a ball down in the strike zone, induce a ground ball at one of the middle infielders and get 2.
Blue Jays have one double play tonight. That was back in the second inning, John. David Segui led off with a single to left field, and then Carlos Garcia started a nice 4-6-3 play.
This is a breaking ball, a slider, a cut fastball from Hinken. I don't think he wanted it there. He got a pretty good call from the umpire, Ted Barrett. He'd been a little bit up in the strike zone, but he'll take it.
That's to right field. Grzelcyk was not running. Sean Green is there, and there's one down. So Mike Lansing is retired here. The Montreal Expos with 4 hits, a single by Segui in the second. He was erased on the double play. Then with 2 down, Guerrero with a home run to straightaway center field.
Brian, you mentioned Grzelcyk not running on that pitch. I thought maybe 0-2. Alou may have given the steal sign to Grzelcyk. Remember last year he stole 33 bases. He's worked very hard with Tommy Harper, the hitting coach for the Expos, who was a great base stealer himself, and he has become an excellent base runner. I should say base stealer because there is a difference. He is both. Not all good base runners are good base stealers. That is an art. Learning the pitchers, learning the moves, learning the catchers, learning when to steal, picking your spots, provided you have the green light, of course, from your manager. As some runners do. I'm not sure about Grzelcyk. I wouldn't be surprised if he does have a green light at certain times, but Alou likes to control the entire game. There's Tommy Harper. He's the hitting coach, and a fine ball player he was, a great base stealer. A lot of teaching going on in that bench.
And again, Mark Grzelcyk on at first after the leadoff single to center field was not running.
I mentioned F.P. Santangelo in his first at bat. I talked about how versatile he was and really valuable for this club because he could play so many different positions.
When I was up in Montreal for the Grand Prix, Santangelo at that point, I believe, was leading off. They've moved him around in the order. He's played many positions.
He can play about 6 positions, all the outfield positions he played last year. He played second, short, and third, as well as in the infield. He actually caught this spring training just in case he might be an emergency backstop if they need be.
The count is 0-2 with 1 down. Grzelcyk at first base. The batter is F.P. Santangelo with David Segui on deck. It is 1-0 Montreal on the home run, a solo shot in the second inning by Vladimir Guerrero, the right fielder.
Pretty good percentage in his career. See if he picks a pitch here.
No, he wasn't going.
0-2 isn't a bad pitch to run on because a lot of times a pitcher will waste a breaking ball down, which Hinken actually did there, a curveball. But against Hinken predominantly throws fastballs, a lot of high fastballs, and if he throws one up and away, it's an easy pitch for Santiago to throw to second base on. Let's see him peer into the dugout. Maybe a pitch out is in order.
No. Started for second, took about 2 strides, then came back. The count is now 1-2 strikes.
Just because a base runner has the steal sign does not mean he has to run. He can get that lead, and if he doesn't feel comfortable or he does not get a good jump, he can hold himself there. I'm not sure that if that's what Grzelcyk did there. He may have just been bluffing the run. A little cat and mouse game going on between the battery and Grzelcyk.
Grzelcyk stayed at first base. F.P. Santangelo strikes out. That is the 3rd strikeout tonight for Pat Hinken. He's allowed 4 hits. He's walked 1.
And it's a big one. It looked like a cut fastball. He threw the outside part of the plate, ran it back towards the corner. And the switch hitting Santangelo not able to make contact. Big out for Hinken. And now with 2 down, David Segui steps in.
That single in the second inning, and again erased on a 4-6-3 double play.
I would expect Grzelcyk to run here. You have a left-handed batter. Once again, a switch hitter. Segui like Santangelo, which makes it a little bit harder for a catcher because he can obstruct that view of first base and the throw to second base. But with 2 down, I think Alou would like to get him into scoring position.
Center field. Nixon can't see it. It's over his head. In to score comes Mark Grzelcyk. It's 2-0 Montreal, and to third base, the veteran David Segui. Well, the crowd boos we saw in Baltimore the other night. Orlando Merced simply lost the ball, and you could see Nixon saying, I don't know where it is.
As soon as it went up, this is a routine fly ball to straightaway center field. You can see Otis has no idea. We saw Orlando Merced do that, as Brian mentioned, in Baltimore on Saturday night. And by the time he realizes it's over his head, the batter runner, David Segui, is into third base with an RBI triple. Tough break for the Blue Jays. And Brian, I mentioned Saturday night, it was at twilight time. The ball can go up through all the light colored shirts, and the batter, Otis Nixon obviously didn't pick it up.
Delgado will flip over to Pat Hinkin, and that's all for the Montreal Expos here in the 6th inning. That was a triple with a run batted in for David Segui. Bottom of the 6th inning, and John Cerruti, here's the story in the game.
It has been Pedro Martinez, and that run on that RBI triple by David Segui could be very costly, that extra run. There you see the opposition's batting average across the National League. Pedro Martinez, no surprise at the top of that order. I mentioned earlier the most dominating pitcher in the National League, and I think he's the best right now. He would have to be the front runner for the Cy Young. Of course, we're only at the end of June here. And there's a lot of good pitchers over that National League when you just look at the Atlanta Braves starting staff.
First pitch to the shortstop, Alex Gonzalez, has popped up. In this inning, Martinez is scheduled to face Gonzalez. The number 9 hitter, the second baseman, Carlos Garcia. And back to the top of the order for Otis Nixon. He couldn't find that fly ball. He didn't see it the moment it left the bat. You could see him put his arms out. And as you say, a very big run. He's pitching. Maybe one run, the Guerrero home run.
Well, that's right, Brian. We thought that
all he needed.
The Guerrero home run may be the difference. It could be the way these two guys are pitching.
One ball and 2 strikes. Martinez has 7 strikeouts. Gonzalez is prone to strikeout. Hot shot. And there is the first hit tonight off Pedro Martinez. It's a leadoff single to center field by Alex Gonzalez here in the bottom of the 6th inning. And John, I know Martinez is angry with himself because he had a chance, he feels, to make that play.
The ball on the outside part of the plate, you can see it. It's almost hit as hard as it was coming in, and probably actually harder than he delivered it. It's awfully tough to get in that position. He fields his position well. Again, I said earlier, he's a good athlete. Anytime a ball gets by you as a pitcher, regardless of how hard it's hit, you feel bad about it because you are that 5th infielder when you've delivered the ball or after you've delivered the ball, and you have to field that position, at least knock it down.
There's Garcia, whose bat came to life over the weekend in Pittsburgh. That's strike 1. You know, you might have, if you're sitting at home, possibly on that replay, as it got by Martinez, saw a diving Mike Lansing. And we talked about Lansing, why he's always, you know, playing on the edge of being injured. He just is going all the time, diving, running, sliding.
It's like Jim Edmonds, the California Angels center fielder, Anaheim Angel center fielder, leaves his feet often banged up because of that, a lot of little injuries.
Down to second for 1. After first, double play. And if you're scoring, that is 3-6-3, started by this man, the first baseman, the veteran, David Segui.
Carlos Garcia does everything well going the other way, just doesn't find the hole. Nice play by Segui. You can see him deliver the ball to the shortstop, Grzelcyk, and then as soon as he throws it, he goes back, finds that base. big double play for Martinez and the Expos to squelch a early rally here in the 6th inning for the Jays.
2 down, back to the top of the order. Here's Nixon. That's a ball.
Brian, let me talk quickly about that triple that Otis Nixon did not pick up in the outfield in the previous inning, the top of this inning. I think the Jays would have liked that ball to go a little bit further, because had it bounced over the wall, of course, it would have been a ground rule double, and the runner would have been held at third base, and the Blue Jays, had Hinkin been able to retire the next batter, who got out of it unscathed.
There's a base hit with 2 down here in the 6th inning. Interesting, the third baseman, Santangelo, was expecting a bunt, came charging in, and in typical Otis Nixon fashion, he simply slapped it, if you will, over the infield.
Well, Expos fans are familiar with Otis Nixon, having played a few years there in Montreal, and he handles the bat extremely well. The veteran like Nixon can do that. He can see the third baseman creep in. Gets a little bit too close, he'll pull it back. Slash, as they say, but there was just a nice job of hitting. And you begin to wonder, had Carlos Garcia's grounder that was hit hard to the right side gotten by, the Jays might have really something working here.
Lansing will go to first base. And that's all for the Toronto Blue Jays. You're watching Labatt Blue Jays baseball live from Skydome on CBC. Back in Toronto, first pitch of the game was handled by the right fielder Sean Green of the inning, rather. And Vladimir Guerrero, leading it off here in the 7th inning, is retired. I said first pitch of the game. It seems like this game just started. It is rolling along here in the top of the 7th inning.
Both pitchers working quickly, throwing a lot of strikes, and we've only had 7 hits, 5 by the Expos and 2 by the Jays here through 6+ innings.
1 down. And the first pitch is a ball to Ryan McGuire. We talk about young players being educated in Montreal. McGuire came up in early June when David Segui went on the DL. He hits this to right field. It's not deep. Green is there. 2 down. Well, just a reminder, tomorrow's game will start first pitch at 2 Eastern. Following the Canada Day celebrations, Jeff Juden against Rocket Roger Clemens. Allison Smith and Peter Mansbridge will host the celebrations from Parliament Hill. You don't want to miss those. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II will be in attendance. We should come here to Skydome somewhere around 10 to 2 with the first pitch at 2 Eastern. And that is strike 1 to the center fielder Rondell White. White 0 for 2 tonight. Look at Jeff Juden, who will start. It's been a surprise this year. He'll start tomorrow against Roger Clemens.
Another hard-throwing right-hander and intimidating. He likes to pitch in. He's hit his share of batters. Actually, he's hit more than his share of batters in his career, Jeff Juden.
He and Martinez make a good pair. I mean, in 94-95, Martinez hit something like 22, 23 batters, 3 bench-clearing balls. Here's the 0-1 to White. The count runs even at a ball and a strike. One ball and 2 strikes. Pat Hinkin has 3 strikeouts tonight. McGuire in the 2nd, Widger in the 3rd, and Santangelo in the 6th. Once again, it's Sean Green, 3 up and 3 down in the Montreal 7th inning. This is Labatt Blue Jays baseball on CBC. Back in Toronto for the bottom of the 7th inning with John Cerruti. I'm Brian Williams. Hope you're enjoying the first of 3 games between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Montreal Expos. The Expos leading 2-0. The first run, a solo home run by Vladimir Guerrero back in the 2nd inning. The second run, a triple by David Segui to score Mark Redzelanek in the 6th inning. And it should have been an out at center field, but Otis Nixon simply could not find the ball. It bounced over his head Blue Jays, as John pointed out, would like to have seen the ball bounce into the stands for a ground rule double. Gredzelanek would have been held at third, but it bounced off the wall. A triple. Gredzelanek came in to score, and it was 2-0.
Well, let me clarify that. I would have liked to see Otis Nixon catch it.
First pitch is a strike to Joe Carter. By the way, Sean Green with 3 putouts in the 7th inning, giving him 7 for the game. He made 9 against Minnesota in July of '95. Green did. The team record is 10. 10 held by the Shaker, Lloyd Mosby. The count is 0-2 to Joe Carter. He'll be followed by the first baseman Carlos Delgado and the third baseman Ed Sprague. Ted Barrett is calling balls and strikes tonight. Barrett was behind the plate. It was a Thursday in Baltimore.
First game in Baltimore with the Jays in town. Roger Clemens pitching.
And he did not do a good job. Joe Carter leading off the 7th inning, and that is the 8th strikeout tonight for Pedro Martinez.
You can see Widger set up away, the ball running way back on the inside part of the plate. There's a lot of late movement on the pitch. As an opposing hitter, it's awfully difficult, I've said this earlier, to make contact.
Well hit. Well hit might be an understatement. Carlos Delgado with his 15th home run of the year. His last came June 18th off John Smoltz and the Atlanta Braves. The 3rd hit off Martinez. Toronto's back in this game, trailing 2-1. That is the 40th run batted in for the Blue Jays' young first baseman.
Brian, I think most pitchers, excuse me, most fans like to see a slugfest somewhat. Of course, I'm not one of those fans. I like the old-fashioned pitchers duel. This is a great matchup. Pedro Martinez with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball against Carlos Delgado. Delgado won that battle. Look at the eyes on Carlos Delgado. He possesses a very quick bat. He knew as soon as he got it, it was just a question of how far.
That's a strike to Ed Sprague. The count is even at 1-1. 1 down and a run in for Toronto here in the bottom of the 7th inning. In a fast-paced game. Count is now 2 balls and 1 strike. That home run, the 3rd hit tonight off Martinez. He had a no-hitter going through 5. There's Delgado. Gave up the leadoff single to Gonzalez. In the 6th, Gonzalez erased on a 3-6-3 double play, then gave up a single to Nixon. It slap single. He was stranded when Merced grounded out, and then the 3rd hit by the smiling. He's got some new dental work. Carlos Delgado.
This smile can't get much wider. Very infectious. Since he joined this club years ago.
Well, we talk about the good young players in Montreal. Delgado, one of the good young players in Toronto. Into right field. And look at this. You talk about hustle. Mike Lansing, the second baseman, and we've talked about it all night. The trainer, the assistant trainer, telling us how Lansing usually plays hurt because he's always on the move. Nice play, John, by Mike Lansing.
Just outstanding. They never quit. They hustle on all balls. Especially that man. I said it earlier. He epitomizes this team more than anyone.
So 2 down, and it brings up the Toronto right fielder Sean Green. Green's 0 for 2 tonight. Flied out to the right fielder Guerrero to end the 2nd inning. And with strikeout number 7 for Martinez back in the 5th inning. He has 8. The 8th being Joe Carter leading it off here in the 7th inning. And just a reminder, this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Toronto Blue Jays. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of the Toronto Blue Jays Baseball Club. With John Cerruti, I'm Brian Williams. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning, 2 down. It's 2-1 Montreal. Toronto on the board. A home run to right field by Carlos Delgado. The ever-present Mike Lansing. That's all for the Blue Jays, but they get one and trail the Montreal Expos by a score of 2-1. Back in Toronto for the top of the 8th inning. First pitch, a strike to the Montreal catcher, the number 9 hitter, Chris Witcher. After Witcher, it's back to the top of the order for the shortstop, Fred Zelanek, and the second baseman, Mike Lansing. Witcher, the second strikeout tonight for Pat Hinken. That was in the 3rd inning. Hinken has struck out 3 and walked 1. He's allowed 5 hits. A single in the second. Home run in the second. Single in the 5th. And then in the 6th, a single in the RBI triple by David Segui when Otis Nixon lost the ball in center field. Is the 6th base hit tonight for the Montreal Expos off Pat Hinken. It's a leadoff single to right field by the catcher, the number 9 hitter, Chris Witcher, here in the top of the 8th inning.
And if you're wondering about Pat Hinken's pitch count, that was just his 90th on the night. Remember, 5 days ago against the Red Sox here at Skydome, he threw a lot of pitches in that bad outing. There's the breakdown, strikes to balls, and that's the reason. Both of these pitchers, Martinez even more so than Pat Hinken, have been throwing strikes. You might say they've both been on top of their game and in control. The difference, the Guerrero home run, the first run of the ball game.
Witcher back at first base, doesn't have great speed. Speaking of strikeouts, I said Hinken with 3. Martinez has 8 strikeouts. He's also walked a batter. Fred Zelanek does his job. Down to scoring position at second base goes Chris Witcher.
You would expect that with the Expos in town in this interleague play. That's National League Baseball right there. 1-run ball game in the 8th inning. Leadoff man aboard. Fastball in the middle of the plate. Perfect form. He waits on the ball, just puts it down the first base line, makes the first baseman field it. And Witcher is in the scoring position for Mike Lansing.
Mike Lansing, the number 2 hitter, is 0 for 3 tonight. Grounded to short, grounded to the pitcher, and flied out to center field. That's a strike. To center field. Nixon sees this one. And back into second base goes Chris Witcher. 2 down. The attendance tonight, and I said it looked like a disappointing crowd, John, and it is. There's no way they should have a crowd of under 40,000. Canada Day Eve, the Expos and Blue Jays. The attendance tonight just 37,430. And I understand you see the empty seats in the upper deck. Plenty of good seats available for the game tomorrow afternoon at 2 Eastern. And then the 3rd and final game on Wednesday. New York Yankees come into Toronto for the weekend. The Atlanta Braves come into Montreal for the weekend. 2 down, 2-1 Montreal. Widger's at second base. And the batter is F.P. Santangelo. Witcher still is at second base.
We saw a big pickoff 2 starts ago for Pat Hinken with that young shortstop Alex Gonzalez breaking in against the Baltimore Orioles in the 8th inning as well, in a key situation in a very close game. The Jays were leading. Those two are getting in sync with more and more with each other with each start of Pat Hinken. And I say that the timing has to be perfect on that play, that pickoff play at second base.
Hot shot. Handled nicely at first base by Carlos Delgado. Santangelo and the Expos are retired here in the 8th inning. FP Santangelo, the final out in the 8th for Montreal. FP for PM. What would be if we spelled it out, Mr. Seward?
Well, it's Frank Paul for FP, again, of course, for Prime Minister. There's fans on that window in that room in the hotel here at Skydome. They love him in Montreal. Talk about his versatility. Another scrappy young player for the Montreal Expos, and he's done a nice job in this 1997 season.
First pitch is a ball to Benito Santiago, leading it off for Toronto here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Bottom third of the order, Santiago, Gonzalez, and the second baseman Carlos Garcia. Grounded foul down past Santangelo at third. He grew up in, or lives actually, in California, but his early years were spent in a Detroit suburb, Livonia, Michigan. And a great story, when the Tigers came up to Montreal for interleague play, someone said, "Are you excited?" He said, "Yeah, I want to meet Ernie Harwood." Popped up right side. David Segui on the line, and there's one down. Ernie Harwood, of course, good friend of ours, Hall of Fame broadcaster with the Detroit Tigers. Look at David Segui, and Santangelo said, "Listen, when you grew up in southeastern Michigan or southwestern Ontario, for that matter, London, Windsor, you grew up listening to the great Ernie Harwood."
And what a great man Ernie is. I had the opportunity, I played with the Tigers in '91 and got to know Ernie on a good basis, and I never forget at the end of that season, that was his last at the time for the Tigers. Had a great call-in show and reminiscing about all the years and how many people in that area for so many miles, a 100-mile radius, that picked him up, just have been touched by his work, and it's great to see him back working with the Tigers again.
And if you're listening, Ernie, tonight, I know he picks our games up off CBC Windsor. Miss Lulu, his wife. Ernie and Lulu now living in Farmington Hills, Michigan. They used to winter, actually, in Dunedin, Florida. And never going to his house for dinner. Not only a great broadcaster, but as you say, a great gentleman. That's to center field, into the gap, and there to make the play is the rookie Guerrero.
We talked about his speed on the bases and how he's learning to become a base stealer. He covers pretty good ground in the outfield, and he's learning again at this major league level. Look at the great jump as he comes into the picture on a full gate, making a nice play with a second out here in the 8th inning. A big out. If that ball had fallen, Gonzalez is at least on second and probably on third base.
First pitch is a ball to Garcia. He's 0 for 2 tonight. We're hearing about Guerrero in spring training. You know, you look at this Montreal ball club and you wonder why they don't draw fans in Montreal. Hot shot, handled by Santangelo. You're watching Labatt Blue Jays baseball on CBC. Top of the 9th inning, first pitch to Segui, handled by Garcia. One down. You know, I was talking about this Montreal team, how exciting it is. 37,000 here tonight, disappointing for Toronto. Without a giveaway, that would be a huge crowd in Montreal. The problem, I don't know, Mike Boone of the Gazette telling me that, you know, if this Expos team was in Boston, they'd be breaking down the gates to get into the park. Jeff Blair, who covers the Expos for the Gazette, had a headline a number of weeks ago saying, "Forget a new stadium. It's a lack of baseball fans that's the problem in Montreal," which is a shame. Well hit to center field by Henry Rodriguez. Up against the wall to make the play is Otis Nixon.
Rodriguez gives it a ride. Extends those arms off the end of the bat a little bit. You get an idea of the power as he sends Otis Nixon to the warning track in center field. Otis with that quick gate, camps under it, and makes an easy out. Second one here in the ninth for Pat Henkin.
Well, the game's been everything we expected it to be, John. We said we expected great pitching. We've seen that. We've seen a couple of home runs, some great plays defensively. The game's not even 2 hours old, and here we are with 2 down, top of the ninth inning. Guerrero with the first run of the game, the solo home run with 2 down in the second inning. Both pitchers, Pat Henkin and Pedro Martinez, have done the job here this evening. It's 2-1 Montreal. Nixon coming in hard, and he makes the play. We'll head to the bottom of the ninth inning with the top of the Toronto order due up. Bottom of the ninth inning in a 2-1 ball game. It's the top of the order for Toronto. First pitch to Otis Nixon. And we saw Nixon make a nice play to retire Guerrero in the top of the ninth inning, but Nixon lost that fly ball. Was scored as a triple for David Segui, and that's the difference in the game. And he made the play. This ball game would be tied at 1-1 in the bottom of the ninth inning. That is a strike. Pedro Martinez tonight with 8 strikeouts.
The Blue Jays have the right man leading off the ninth, the top of the order for Toronto. You get Otis Nixon on, he can steal a base. You can't steal second base until you reach first, and that's what Martinez is trying to do, keep him from getting there.
Merced's on deck. That is the 9th strikeout tonight for Pedro Martinez. He gets the leadoff man Nixon here in the bottom of the ninth inning in a 2-1 ball game.
Just a fastball running to the outer half, and that is the hat trick for Otis Nixon. 3 strikeouts and 0 for 4 night. And it's going to be up to Orlando Merced. The Blue Jays trying to get a run for Pat Henkin. He's pitched brilliantly, as has this man. He's been a little bit sharper, Pedro Martinez. And Brian, I might add, not a surprise, both of these pitchers, Pat Henkin and Pedro Martinez, lead their respective leagues in complete games, both with 6.
Weekly hit to Gredzelanek. 2 down. Pat Henkin allowed 6 hits, or has allowed 6 hits. So far, Martinez has allowed 3. And the Toronto Blue Jays and Cito Gaston are down to their final out. Is only appropriate. The ball game ends on a strikeout. The 10th strikeout tonight. Pat Henkin pitched a strong game. Not good enough to beat Pedro Martinez and the Montreal Expos. And And in the first ever league game between these two teams, Montreal wins it 2-1. The winning run coming when Otis Nixon could not find the fly ball, a routine fly ball to center field by David Segui that went for a triple. The game was that close. John Cerruti predicted great pitching. We saw great pitching. We saw a couple of home runs, one by Guerrero, one by Delgado for Toronto, and some great plays in the field. But how about Martinez and the strikeouts? 10 tonight.
Congratulations all around for the Expos, and especially for Pedro Martinez. He gets Carter on a good slider down and away, as Brian mentioned, for his 10th strikeout. He was on top of his game. He brought his National League reputation as a strikeout pitcher, leading the league in ERA. He brought it to Sky Dome, and that has been the difference. 2-1 ball game.
Only 2 hours and 3 minutes, and that is the fastest on the season.
Only 3 by Toronto as Montreal wins it by a score of 2-1. The winning pitcher is Pedro Martinez. He goes to 10-3. Pat Hentgen drops to 8-5, and the first ever game between these two cities on the big league level goes to the Montreal Expos. And we understand that Pedro Martinez is getting the headset on down in the field. Pedro, if you can hear us, it's Brian Williams and John Cerruti. Congratulations on a great ball game tonight.
Thank you very much.
Pedro, you've seemed to mature the last couple of years. The players respect you now. They say you come inside. There's no longer the danger of being hit. It's been a quick process for you, but you seem more relaxed than ever out there this year.
Well, that's what I was looking for while I was struggling throwing in and getting into some brawls. I didn't mean to do that. All I was looking for was to do the things I'm doing now and getting the inside corner in order for me to pitch better.
Pedro, this is John Cerruti. You have had the reputation. You pitch inside with that good fastball to right-handed batters. But to me, what I saw tonight, and really what I saw the times I've seen you this year, you're using a more of a moving fastball away to righties as well. Is there something that you've done with your pitching coach consciously at the beginning of the season in order to use both sides of the plate?
Well, yes, we have been working on everything, and especially keeping my body in control and keeping my arm up a little bit better than I did last year.
We saw the numbers. You struck out 10 batters tonight with just a little over 100 pitches. That's got to feel good to go out and go the distance for your league-leading 7th complete game and not work yourself into the 120, 130 pitch count that you normally are accustomed to a couple of years ago.
Well, yes, it's nice to hear that because I've been going pretty deep, and Felipe is a little bit concerned about it, and I'm pretty sure that it will affect me if I keep throwing as many pitches as I've been towards the end of the season.
Pedro, talk to me about the confidence on this Montreal ball club. It's the same story year after year. The team's written off before the season. They lose Wetland. They lose Alou. Everyone says they can't come back. You're back. You're a legitimate wild card contender. Tremendous confidence on this team?
Yeah, we have a lot of talent in our team. I know we have some young guys out there, and we're going to make a few mistakes. But when you have guys with the abilities that a guy like Vladimir Guerrero, we have Bruce Atlantic on shortstop, and we have Widger behind the plate. Those guys are contributing to the team very well.
Well, Pedro, you were quoted in Sports Illustrated as saying the strike zone is little, the people are big when you first came up, but I like the expression now, the strike zone tonight is roughly the size of Quebec, and it's the batters that feel very, very small. John Cerruti has one final question for you.
Pedro, your next start will be against Atlanta, I think, on Saturday at home in Montreal, and after that, you got to be thinking about that All-Star game. Are you looking forward to maybe starting for the National League?
Well, I'm just looking forward to see if I can be part of it, and if I am, I'll be really happy, and I'll go out there and do what they want me to do for the small time I'm going to be in there.
Well, if you're not part of it, it'll be the biggest surprise in the National League. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations on tonight's ball game.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Pedro, good job. 10 strikeouts for the winning pitcher, Montreal's Pedro Martinez, as he wins his 10th of the year.